Have you ever looked at your grandbaby and wondered, are they really getting everything they need? Maybe they're a little fussier than usual. Or maybe they just don't seem quite as lively, quite as bright-eyed as they used to. It's a strange little feeling that tugs at you, and it's not panic exactly, but it's enough to make you stop and think. You know, when you've lived a few decades, your instincts get sharp. You might not be the one up at 3 a.m. doing the feedings anymore, but you do notice things. The changes in their skin, their energy, how much they're growing, or not. And even if you've raised kids of your own, it's easy to forget just how quickly babies grow, and how quickly things can go off track if they're not getting the right nutrition. That's exactly what we're talking about today, how to spot the signs that a baby may not be getting enough nutrients, and just as important, what you can do to help fix it fast. Because when it comes to babies, timing matters. Their bodies are developing by the second, and a small tweak can make a big difference. Now, before we go any further, let me just say this: if you're here watching this, it means you care. Deeply. Whether you're a parent, grandparent, or someone helping to raise a little one you love, the fact that you're paying attention is already a huge part of the solution. So let's gently walk into this, together. You don't need to be a doctor to understand the basics. You just need your eyes, your heart, and a little bit of the wisdom you've picked up along the way. Let's start with something simple: energy levels. Babies are little explorers by nature. Even the tiniest ones, before they can crawl or sit up, are using every bit of their energy to grow and interact. So when a baby starts seeming less alert than usual, not making eye contact, not responding much to sounds or faces, or just being unusually quiet, it can be a red flag. It's easy to chalk it up to a bad nap or a growth spurt, and sometimes that's all it is. But if it becomes a pattern, it could mean they're missing something critical, like iron. Iron helps carry oxygen to their cells, and when a baby is low on it, they can start to look pale, act sluggish, or lose interest in playing. If you're caring for an infant who's breastfed, it's good to know that after about 4 to 6 months, their natural iron stores start to run low. That's when iron-rich foods or supplements, as advised by their pediatrician, might be needed. If they're formula-fed, look for a formula that's iron-fortified, which most are these days. Now let's look at another important signal: growth. Not just height or weight, but the whole picture. Babies are meant to grow fast. Their weight should roughly double by 5 months and triple by their first birthday. If that's not happening, or if a baby drops off their usual growth curve, it might be a sign they're not getting enough nutrients overall. Sometimes, they might be getting enough volume, in other words, they're full, but not enough quality. I once met a grandmother who told me, "My daughter said her baby was drinking bottles all day, but something just didn't feel right." She noticed her granddaughter's legs were getting thin, and her clothes weren't fitting any tighter even after a few weeks. It turned out that the formula was being mixed incorrectly: too much water, not enough powder. Simple mistake, but a big impact. That's why it's so important to double-check how bottles are made, or what kinds of solid foods are being introduced. Nutrient-rich doesn't mean fancy, it just means whole foods when possible. Things like mashed avocado, pureed peas, or iron-fortified cereals can go a long way in filling those nutritional gaps. Let's talk now about a sign that's easy to overlook: skin and hair. A baby's skin should be soft and smooth, and while some dryness here and there is normal, especially in winter, persistent flakiness, rough patches, or an almost papery texture can suggest a lack of essential fatty acids or vitamins like A and E. If their scalp is flaky or their hair seems brittle, that could be a subtle cue, too. Fatty acids, those healthy fats, are incredibly important for developing brains and strong immune systems. Breast milk usually contains these naturally, but if you're supplementing with formula or transitioning to solids, adding sources of healthy fats, like pureed salmon or full-fat yogurt, when age-appropriate, can make a world of difference. And remember, babies don't need a lot of anything. They need enough. And enough looks like steady growth, bright eyes, responsive smiles, and skin that looks well-nourished. Now, before we wrap up this section, I want to mention one more thing that's not always thought of as a nutrition issue, but often is: digestion. If a baby is constipated, has frequent diarrhea, or is spitting up more than usual, it could be a reaction to something missing or something irritating in their diet. It might be a sensitivity to a certain formula or a need for more fiber-rich purees as solids are introduced. Watching what comes out of a baby is sometimes the best clue to understanding what's going in. So many grandparents I've spoken with have said the same thing: I just knew something wasn't right with my grandbaby's tummy. And when you've changed as many diapers as most of us have, your instincts are worth trusting. Now that we've looked at signs like energy, growth, skin, and digestion, we're starting to build a full picture of what nutrient imbalance can look like in babies. And don't worry, there are clear, simple ways to support their bodies so they can catch up quickly. Let's keep going. Now that we've touched on energy levels, growth patterns, and the little clues like skin and digestion, let's keep our eyes open for another sign that's often overlooked: mood and behavior changes. And this one's tricky, because every baby has fussy days. That's just part of life with little ones. But when a baby seems persistently cranky, hard to soothe, or unusually irritable for no clear reason, it's worth considering whether something deeper is going on. You know how we adults get when we're low on nutrients. We feel off, tired, and sometimes even anxious. Babies feel it too, but they can't tell us. They show us with their moods. A baby who isn't getting enough of certain vitamins, like B vitamins, iron, or even zinc, might cry more often, seem restless, or struggle to fall asleep and stay asleep. It's not just about hunger, it's about the quality of what's going in. I remember one older gentleman, he was a retired teacher, sharp as a tack, telling me about his first grandchild. She cried all the time, he said. And it wasn't a hungry cry. It was different. She just wasn't herself. Turns out, the little one had low iron, and once they corrected it, her entire personality blossomed. She smiled again, he said. That was the best day. Isn't that something? One little shift in nutrients, and it brought that baby back to her joyful self. It's a reminder that behind the tears and tantrums, there may be a physical need waiting to be met. And that brings us to the next piece: appetite. Babies are born with natural hunger cues. They know when they need to eat and, usually, when they've had enough. But when those cues seem out of whack, if a baby suddenly loses interest in feeding, or is eating more but still not gaining, it can be a clue that their body isn't processing nutrients properly, or that their meals are missing something vital. Sometimes, it's about absorption. You might be feeding them all the right things, but their little digestive systems aren't pulling the nutrients out of those foods the way they should. This can happen with babies who've had a stomach bug, or even with certain sensitivities, like a dairy intolerance. If you've noticed changes in their appetite that just don't sit right with you, it's always worth gently bringing it up with the parents or the pediatrician. And if you're the one feeding them, you can try shifting the focus from quantity to quality. Even adding just a teaspoon of mashed sweet potato or banana to their regular feeding routine can offer a quick nutrient boost. Now, here's something important, and this part is really about you and your role in all of this. It can feel awkward sometimes, stepping in or offering advice. After all, parenting has changed a lot over the years. There are new rules, new research, and sometimes younger parents feel like they're drowning in information. But what they don't always realize is that you bring something the internet can't offer: a calm, grounded perspective and a whole lot of love. You've been through the rough nights, the spit up, the doubt. You know that feeling when something just seems off, and you also know how powerful small, steady changes can be. So don't underestimate the power of saying something like, "Have you noticed she's been extra fussy lately?" Or, "He seems a little tired, maybe we could try giving him a different cereal." These little nudges, said kindly, can open the door to better choices. And sometimes, your quiet concern is the exact thing a tired new parent needs to feel supported, not judged. There's a sweet balance here, being present without overstepping, being helpful without hovering. And when it comes to nutrition, that balance is key. Because we're not trying to fix everything overnight. We're just trying to notice the signs and gently guide things back into balance. I always like to remind people, especially grandparents, you are a part of the village. Even if you're not doing the day-to-day parenting, your role is deeply valuable. Just sitting down to feed a baby, making sure that bowl of mashed carrots is really eaten instead of flung on the floor, or even preparing meals when mom or dad is too exhausted to think, it all matters. And those quiet actions speak volumes. And while we're at it, let's not forget the emotional side of feeding. Babies can pick up on tension. If mealtimes become a battle, rushing, scolding, forcing, it can lead to long-term food struggles. That's why your calm, gentle presence during feedings can be so healing. If a baby isn't eating well, maybe they just need a different rhythm, a different person, or a softer voice saying, "Let's try this together." I've seen so many babies eat beautifully in grandma's arms, not because the food changed, but because the energy changed. Because they felt safe, and that made all the difference. When you tune into these subtleties, the way a baby feeds, reacts, grows, you're doing more than keeping them healthy. You're setting the stage for a lifetime of positive eating habits and emotional well-being. You're telling them, even without words, "I see you. I'm here. And you're going to be okay." So whether you're preparing a bottle, offering a spoonful of something new, or just watching and listening with love, trust that your presence is part of the solution. Now that we've touched on some of the deeper signs, mood shifts, appetite changes, and how your care can gently guide nutrition, let's move forward and look at one more vital area that brings everything together. And that area is development. Now, development isn't just about crawling or walking. It's about the little milestones, grabbing, babbling, rolling over, focusing their eyes on your face. These tiny victories tell us a baby's brain and body are working in sync, growing the way nature intended. But when you notice that a baby seems to be falling behind, not making sounds, not reaching for things, or not holding their head up when they used to, it's time to pay close attention. Delays like these don't always mean there's something seriously wrong. Sometimes, they're simply the body's way of saying, "I need more fuel to keep going." The brain is the most demanding organ when it comes to nutrients. It craves healthy fats, protein, iron, zinc, choline, things that help build memory, focus, and emotional balance. When a baby doesn't get enough of those key nutrients, it's like trying to build a house without all the bricks. The foundation's there, but the rest can't quite come together as it should. The good news is, babies are incredibly resilient. Their bodies are wired to catch up quickly once they start getting what they need. But timing is everything. That's why it's so powerful when someone in the family, especially someone like you, is tuned in and watching with that quiet wisdom. You know what progress looks like. And when something isn't adding up, your perspective can be the gentle nudge that helps everyone take action. Now, if you are seeing signs of delays, or you're concerned about what your baby, or grandbaby, is eating, the first step is always a conversation. It doesn't have to be a scary one. Just honest. Something like, "I've noticed he's not sitting up as much, maybe we could check in with the doctor," or "She seems to be eating, but maybe she needs something with a bit more protein." These small comments, offered in love, can open the door to bigger solutions. Because again, this isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. And once you've spotted a potential gap, there are so many small ways to help fill it. If the baby is old enough for solids, you can gently add foods that are rich in the things their growing brain and body need. Think soft-cooked egg yolks for healthy fats and choline, mashed lentils for iron and protein, or tiny flakes of salmon, which are packed with brain-boosting omega-3s. And here's the thing, babies don't care if it's fancy. They don't need Instagram-worthy meals. They need real, honest food, offered with patience and love. Sometimes, I talk with grandparents who worry about doing it wrong. They say, "Well, we didn't have all this nutrition advice back then." And you know what I say to that? You did the best with what you had, and look at you. You're still here. Still caring. Still learning. That says everything. We know more now, yes. But that doesn't mean we throw out the old ways. It means we blend the wisdom of yesterday with the knowledge of today. You've always known that food is love. That's something no generation can ever forget. So trust that. Trust your instinct to nurture, to nourish, to notice. That instinct is your superpower. And don't forget, you're not just feeding their bodies. You're feeding their hearts. Every meal you prepare, every bite you patiently coax into a tiny mouth, every time you smile and say, isn't that tasty? You're building more than health. You're building trust, connection, and a sense of safety that stays with them forever. So let's gently recap what we've talked about in this time together, without rattling off a checklist. Just let it sit in your heart: a baby's energy, their growth, their skin and digestion, their mood, their appetite, and how they're developing. All of these are little signals. Clues. And when something feels off, your love, your wisdom, and your quiet courage can be the turning point. You don't need a degree in nutrition to make a difference. You just need to be present, patient, and open to learning. Ask questions. Offer help. And never underestimate the power of a shared meal, a kind word, or a comforting voice. Because what you're doing, whether you're watching the baby for an hour or caring for them every day, is sacred work. You're helping shape a little life. You're protecting a future. And you're doing it with a heart full of love and the kind of strength that only comes with age and experience. So, if no one has told you lately, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for caring enough to learn, to notice, and to give your time. That's what makes all the difference. And if this video has helped you feel a little more confident, a little more equipped to support your grandchild or loved one, I'd love for you to leave a comment below. Tell us your story. What signs have you noticed? What foods worked for your little ones? Your wisdom could help someone else who's quietly worried, just like you were. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing you simple, heartfelt advice that makes a real difference. Because no matter your age, you have so much to give, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Here's to healthy babies, strong families, and the quiet heroes like you who make it all possible. Take care, and remember, you're doing a beautiful job.